things that's happened, I would say, since Trump has been elected, there's kind of been a bit of an attempt by certain sections of the media and certain sections of the political class to try and kind of normalise the situation. You know, that Trump's been elected, but Trump won't be that bad, and the American state will somehow act to rein him in and whatever. And I think that's a real mistaken position. You know, I really think we should make no mistake that Trump's election is a disaster. It's a disaster for large sections of the American population. It's a disaster for the poor. It's a disaster for working people, despite whatever he says about being on their side. We all know it's an absolute load of bullshit. It's certainly a disaster for non-white people in America, for minorities, for people who are seeking refuge in America for whatever reason. It's a disaster for all of those people. And it will be absolutely catastrophic. And I don't use that word lightly, disaster for the planet. It will be a catastrophic disaster for the planet if he is not challenged. So I agree with the people that say there should be more people there, and I think we've got to kind of dedicate ourselves from here on in. I would argue for two things. We've got to make sure that outside the American embassy, every time Trump sets out, takes an action on climate that sets us on track for the kind of catastrophic climate change that we know is already starting to happen, we have got to be here. And we've got to make sure that we bring with us more people. And we've got to congregate here. And we've got to get that message out over and over again, as Claire said at the beginning, that we will stand with the people in the US. We stand with the people globally that are going to challenge this destruction. So I think that's the first thing that we can dedicate ourselves to. That next time we come, we will have more with us. And we will build those protest movements. Because for me, one of the things that's given me utter inspiration, not just inspiration, but actually shows me the way forward, was the ability, the willingness, the creativity, the perseverance of those hundreds of thousands of people that took to the streets in the US immediately on Trump's election. That showed you that there is a power to challenge that man. There is a power to challenge those kind of policies. We've got to take inspiration from those people. We've got to emulate those people so they know that there is a global movement standing alongside them. And the second thing I would say is this. Trump and the politicians that are unfortunately potentially about to follow him, Marine Le Pen in France, etc., they've got the same right-wing, and for some of them, overtly fascist agenda, where they are prioritising the interests of an elite over the interests of the majority of people. They're playing populist politics to try and justify that. We have to absolutely avoid a situation where Trump and his presidency pushes the whole agenda to the right across the world globally, and therefore legitimises those kind of politics that are a disaster for the planet and for the other things that we know that we care about. And one way of doing that is the protest that I've spoken about, and the other way of doing that, I think, is to keep challenging our own government. There is no question that the likes of May will teeter along behind Trump if Trump sets that agenda and she faces no opposition. There is no doubt about it that the likes of May have followed firmly in the footsteps of Cameron and Osborne in rolling us back on the action that we need to do to tackle climate change. They've got in it every single thing that they have announced since they've been in power is further developing the infrastructure of a fossil fuel economy, a road building program, an expansion of airways, all of the subsidies to the fossil fuel corporations, and opening the door to fracking in the UK. So as much as dedicating ourselves to challenging Trump, and let's be here outside the embassy on those incidents when he announces policy that sets us back on climate change, we've also got to dedicate ourselves to challenging May and her government and the policy here, and make sure there isn't a right-wing global agenda on the question of climate change. On the 10th of December, Campaign Against Climate Change, it's 1 year anniversary of the Paris Agreement, and we called a day of action. Do what you can, do what you will, do what you must on the 10th of December, but be on the streets just to say, it's 1 year on, what has our government done? They're going in the wrong direction. We've got a Santa Claus theme, a sad Santa theme, because Santa is truly sad. His home is melting away. He's opening presents from May that are full of the things that he does not want, but fracking rigs, airport expansion, roads, etc. So do something on the 10th of December. Join us in protest on the 10th of December. Just one final thing. I'm involved with the Campaign Against Climate Change trade union group. We've proposed that there is an alternative 1 million climate jobs. Here in the UK, the same thing applies globally. These are jobs that could reduce emissions and put people into work. And with that agenda, and the trade union group has also worked with other groups to call a conference on February the 11th. Sorry, I'm jumping around a little bit here. February the 11th, we're going to work with other groups. There's a conference on climate refugees. There is a whole racist agenda around Trump, and one element of it that is very rarely talked about is the impact of climate in creating refugees, and then of course the appalling, brutal, miserable treatment that we see has been dealt out to refugees in the last couple of years. So again, this is another agenda that we want to fight on. Please join us on February the 11th. I don't really know how to finish, but give me a cheer, that's the best way.